As of a few weeks ago, InfinityMice have sent out some copies of their new unreleased pads for reviewers to check out, and can I just say, what an improvement they are over the first mousepad. Not just in the quality but in the surfaces and their change of base material. I was lucky enough to be sent out all 4 of their pads. 3 of them having different surfaces, more specifically so a control, a hybrid and a speed. Then we do have the 4th pad being a very special edition of the hybrid surface. Now, how I'll be going about this review is kind of just going in depth on the materials that all the pads share, and then individually breaking down each one and to showcase how they fare. But of course, to kick things off, I would like to start with the most notable change, and that's going to be the base's material. InfinityMice have decided to switch from their first attempt, having a soft Poron-esque base, to this new mixture of a polyurethane that they call Infinity PU, or well, just IPU for short. Now, turning it over, we do see InfinityMice have went with a custom design, representing the outlined logo in a pattern kind of just repeating into one single direction. But focusing on the material itself though. The base does come in at 3.5mm thick, so it's the exact same case as the Focus Ambition pad, where it is a great in-between of mid and soft density. Difference is that the Infinity pads lean way more towards soft, so we have the comfort and slight bit of plush on the forearm and wrist, but not soft to the extent where mouse strokes can cause kind of just mad amounts of extra friction and drag. But on top of that, it doesn't cause the issue that majority of mid-Poron and Poron-esque bases have, which is having near 0 amounts of gripping to your desk. So on the desk right now, we do have the Artisan Heian Soft next to the Infinity Speed Pad. Pushing them both from the side, the IPU shows quite a bit more resistance in movement, whereas the Poron glides with pretty much ease. So, of course, nobody will be playing on a pad and express force from their side. Even so, just showing off aggressive swipes across the pad with my wrist dragging across the surface with a pretty normal amount of force. The Infinity pad stays still and the Poron inches slightly side to side. Personally, I've felt for the most part that Poron is pretty overrated, and kind of have always preferred the rubber bases and PU mixes we've been seeing lately. Next up, we have the stitching, which stays super consistent across the whole pad. It's nice and soft on the skin, and also super flat at the exact same height as the pad surface. But that's only on the speed pad though, whereas the other 3 have a below surface level stitching. So just in case of a mouse swiping off the sides, you won't have any noticeable bump across it, even when making use of dot skates like I mainly do. So except for a couple spots where I notice some fraying around the sides of the frame, but it doesn't cause any issues whatsoever, it's legit just a visual thing. Overall, we love seeing this quality and having it flush with the surface. So, of course, I briefly touched base on the 2 aforementioned topics, as they aren't really the main focus of these new products, in my personal opinion. But we do get into the most exciting part of the new Infinity pads. That's going to be the surfaces. With each of the 3 main pads, they also have a different uncoated surface material. Now, across these, I will use BTL-esque dots as my main examiner across the pads, as they're really balanced, but I will also showcase different speed mouse gates across every surface near the end of the video. So there's just kind of a general idea on each of the effects. Kicking things off, we do have the control pad. Now initially when I saw a control pad, I thought it might just be something like an Artisan Zero, which is still pretty fast, but that is definitely not the case. It has this strange material that's really nice to the touch, like weirdly fun. Just a different cloth that feels kind of fluffy with a very low texture, which I'd assume kind of adds to the controlling drag effect. The static friction is pretty low, but after getting into it, the dynamic friction you can properly feel. It gives quite a bit of resistance in the dynamic friction, coming to a dead stop. Now, I'm not usually a big fan of control pads because it feels like it takes a lot of effort to use when there's a stronger tug at the start to get the mouse moving. Like, just fatiguing basically. But wow, this one is really well done and hasn't once made me feel like it takes heaps of effort to play on it. Now I have no direct comparison to this pad as it is really unique, but the slowest pad I have right now is the Spire KMAC, and that's still faster than this even though it's a control as well. But next we have the hybrid, which is a big jump coming from the control pad. The surface is definitely not soft. It's a pretty stiff surface with an uncoated, very rough textured surface, feeling very common to a Heian but a bit more aggressive and higher jacket bumps. The static friction is again low, but a smidge lower than the control pad. The dynamic friction is also a bit faster than that of the control, but definitely leans more towards control than speed, coming to a pretty solid medium stop. My closest comparison would be the Pad Smith First War in terms of how it acts and also how the feel is, in my personal experience. Lastly is going to be my favorite surface of the lineup. Now, the speed is a way bigger jump from the hybrid than how much the hybrid was from the control. Now, the surface is super smooth. It's uncoated, silky and velvety that has literally no texture, unlike the hybrid or the control. This one is for sure catered to the speed demons. Very low static friction, very low dynamic friction, and a very low stopping power. Now, even regardless of my skates tested, the glide is immaculate, and the effort it takes to use this pad is basically null. The closest pad I can compare this to would for sure be the Artisan Raiden Soft. I don't personally own one, but have recently had the opportunity to use one at a mate's house and absolutely loved it. And seeing as I'm an absolute slob for speed pads, I'd love to give the Infinity Speed Pad my top spot for personal favorite speed pads so far, thus making it my favorite overall pad of 2023 as well. But I can't be faffing about the speed pad too much, as we do have a last pad to point out. This is going to be the biggest mention of all three base pads. This is the new Vagabond limited edition pad. This is an exact copy version of their hybrid surface, so there's no major differences except for this dope design showcasing an anime character, as well as their little InfinityMice Easter egg right here in the top corner. The colors pop and complement each other so well. So I'd love to give a huge shout out to the artist on Twitter for the amazing work she's done and her whole portfolio. A last design thing I failed to mention earlier would be the branding in the bottom right. So across the three base pads, the logo is printed on the right corner. So it has a clingier texture on the skin, which is not really interfering with me when playing. But the Vagabond does have it pressed into the fabric the exact same way done with the artwork. Now, ending off the surface, I'd like to show off a few different mice with different skates and how the glides also act on each of these. Rounding off the video, I'd like to give firm handshakes all around to InfinityMice. The new pads they've released are a major jump up in quality and feel coming from their first product, the dual mousepad. And also comparing this to what Lethal Gaming Gear doing as an Artisan competitor. First off, the value you get from this new lineup is insane. You have the common option of a 490 by 420 pad coming in at $35 US, and the 490 by 490 square coming in at $40 US. The Vagabond being a special edition though, will likely cost a smidge more at $40 for the 490 by 420 and 45 USD for the 490 by 490 square. Unfortunately, you are handicapped at having the red color and Vagabond as the only options for now. So in later updates we will see them broaden their color options to cater more towards other tastes. That being said, I can highly recommend using the pads as is, that those more into attack shooters would really enjoy the control pad, and hybrid and speed definitely for those into more tracking based games. But an insane combo I've experienced is if you pair the control pad with X-ray Jade dots, the fastest skates I've tried so far, it gives such a cool balanced experience, enabling you to play either games you'd like without feeling too dragging or too fast. It's a great in-between. Now, the pads will go up pretty soon on InfinityMice's site for the first drop though. Some other retailers will be limited to just selling the Dual and Vagabond pads. But when the second drop is announced, it will be arranged that the retailers can sell the Infinity lineup as well. So thanks heaps for watching, take care and peace.